Queer birds indeed, members of a gliding club. Human beings they are, but birds they would like to be, and at every available opportunity they do their best to make the transformation. This is no mere donning of feathers in the manner of the ancients, but a scientific pastime involving finely designed motorless aeroplanes. Some members own their own, dragging them about without a qualm. Others just arrive, hoping for the chance to fly one of the club machines in return for endless hard work on the ground. But as they enter the aerodrome, they all become just plain queer birds. However early one arrives, there's usually someone there already getting things underway. Such jobs as wheeling the aircraft out, giving them their daily inspection, checking the ground vehicles and equipment, all part of the strict precautions taken to make the inherently unsafe business of being suspended in mid-air as little fraught with danger as possible. The preliminaries are over, and we're ready to fly. Almost. First, a short journey from the hangar to the launching point at the downwind end of the aerodrome, and the Kookaburra two-seater trainer makes it at walking pace. Who's first to fly? It looks as though John has the priority. But it's a responsibility too, since it is in effect a test flight, and he's the one who'll have to cope with the result of any overlooked vital inspection. Hence he's even more careful than usual in the pre-flight cockpit check. Harness fastened and test released before refastening. Control column and rudder bar checked for free movement with correct control surface movements. No crossed cables here. The air brakes are essential for spoiling the lift during the landing run and for limiting the airspeed in a dive. They're checked for normal operation and positive closing. And a check of the instruments too. At the upwind end of the airfield, the tractor joins the two-drum winch, which has been secured so that its cables can be towed straight down the runway, enabling the aircraft to be launched in much the same way as a kite. The parachute opens when the pilot releases the cable. Its effect is to keep some tension on the cable after release to prevent tangles during the rewind. With the cables laid, it's a simple job to attach one of them to the aircraft. But again, the key words are check and check again. Satisfied that everything is in order, John is ready to fly. The lamp signals the winch driver to take up the slack. Now the all-out signal. A steadying hand covers the brief moment before control speed is gained. Then the aircraft climbs steeply and the day's flying has begun. The winch driver has as much to do with a good launch as the pilot. His job is to judge his winch speed so that it's not too slow, reducing the effectiveness of the launch, and yet not fast enough to place undue stress on the aircraft structure. Other club members look on, not only to assess the prevailing conditions, but because any glider in its element is a most beautiful sight. The parachute opens, keeping the cable in the air to reduce ground friction and consequent wear, and allowing a smooth rewind. After the launch, the winch driver's time is, of course, his own, and with such a heavy responsibility just removed from his shoulders, he must rest until the next pilot sends an angry message that he's ready. John has found no lift with which to make of the flight anything more than a simple circuit, and so he's on his final approach to land. Now he's down again after perhaps 4 minutes in the air. And when the retrieving vehicle tows the Kookaburra back to the launching point, another member will be launched. But meanwhile, the winch driver has been roused for sufficiently long to get the nymph single-seater into the air. And Jake's intention is to do aerobatics and a beat-up. Let's watch. The driver of the retrieving vehicle is as much interested in the landing as anyone. He waits at the launching point out of the way, watching the aircraft complete its landing run, and then proceeds to take the hard work out of getting it back in place for takeoff again. No hard work, maybe, but plenty of discomfort. Jake has sat in the cockpit until the car arrives as the best means of keeping one-man control, but now we're off back to the beginning again. While the club aircraft have been having their early flights, our friends with the Skylark, high-performance single-seater packed away in its trailer, have driven onto the field. This sailplane is owned by a syndicate of club members, and here's Rupert starting the job of putting it together. First out is the fuselage, feeling somewhat heavier than it looks in the air. Everything has gone in strictly in order, and now comes out in reverse order. The wing center section goes into place, and although its anchoring bolts appear rather flimsy, Pat knows that as long as she secures them properly, there's plenty of safety margin designed in. Onto the ends of the center section, the outer sections are offered up, and when held in exactly the right position, can be secured in much the same way. And the tailplane and elevator go on, once again being secured by a few strategically placed bolts and pins. Now the control cables to ailerons, elevator and rudder may be connected. The pitot tube cover prevents foreign bodies from gaining entry to the delicate flight instruments. Oxygen and radio are installed in hopes of a good long cross-country trip, and the Skylark is just about airworthy. This time, an Aero Club Tiger Moth has been teed up for an aero tow, which is more flexible than a winch launch, allowing the pilot to release the tow rope when conditions suit him, rather than arbitrarily just above the winch. The glider pilot can adopt either the high tow position, above the towing aircraft's slipstream, or the low tow position, below the slipstream. Once he's released the tow rope, the tug can return to the aerodrome, and in a low pass over the launching point, drop the cable, make a circuit, and land ready for the next aero tow. Jack is one of the best pilots in the business, and if there's any lift to be found, he'll find it. The tug pilot is usually briefed beforehand as to the general area towards which to fly, where rising air is most likely, but it's Jack who decides when to release. And when he does, he'll set off cross-country, all the while searching, first for more lift, and secondly for a landing field, in case he finds none. There he goes now. See you later, Jack. Here's another aircraft arriving. This one is the LO-150 high-performance single-seater. Shall we just sit back and watch this time as it's rigged by its syndicate of owners? While his Skylark is away, Rupert watches with interest as the LO-150 takes to the air for a circuit. We've been watching the activities of a Victorian club up to this point, but the gliding movement is growing all the time and is particularly strong in South Australia. This German KA-6 sailplane belongs to a syndicate from a very active Adelaide club. Different people, with a different aircraft at a different place, but the same combination of enthusiasm and care. Having seen something of how a glider and a gliding club work, you will have gathered that those queer birds who fly the machines are, after all, normal humans. Well, almost normal. This being so, perhaps you'd like to trust yourself to their care and see just what it is that gets into their blood. All set? Then here we go. Down there is where we were. And up here in a sailplane with no engine noise or vibration, it seems remote indeed. The only thing is, it's all too close if we don't find some rising air and stay in it. But we're going round and round now, having found the center of a thermal, so we should gain enough height, perhaps to do some aerobatics a little later on. You've seen the birds circling in a thermal, and our queer birds do exactly the same, keeping as close to the center as possible in order to keep in the fastest rising air, and so gain the most benefit from it. Now let's tighten our safety harness and have fun. Now it's time to return to Earth, not only literally, but metaphorically too. There's no better way of getting away from it all than going gliding. But that's only half the story. It's the sense of achievement and of exhilarating freedom that turns ordinary people into gliding people, into these queer birds.